Hi, in this session we will learn how to add and animate cameras in our scene. So I'm gonna go to my cameras folder here, and I'm gonna have a sample scene. I'm gonna drag and drop and open the file, and I know that this FBX file has animation inside, so I'm gonna say all takes. And basically what this animation is that a character walks toward a camera. Let me pull my camera back a bit. And then slides to the right. The first thing we need to do as animators is to decide on the camera angles and the camera animation based on what you have in the scene. And in this scene, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start focusing on the feet as my initial shot. And as the character walks toward the camera, I'm gonna pull my camera back. I'm gonna reveal his face right before he starts sliding to the right. And I'm gonna cut to a second camera for the sliding section. Let's go ahead and do that. Now, of course, the first thing we need to do is to add the camera in our scene. So to do that, we need to go to Templates and Elements, and then you will see a camera icon there. And all you need to do is drag and drop this into our scene. But even though we added only one element, which is the camera element, into our scene, we actually added two elements. And if you go to the scene section here, you will see them here. One of them is the camera, and the other one is the camera interest. And the camera interest is actually this little plus sign here. And all it means is actually that where the camera is looking at. If you look at the camera here, I selected my camera interest. If you move the camera interest, you will see that the camera is also changing its orientation to look at that camera interest point. So again, camera interest means where the camera is looking at. So since my character is here, I'm gonna put my camera interest somewhere around here. But before we go any further, let me remind you that if you want to stay organized during your project, you should give descriptive names to every single element that you add to your scene. Because I know I'm gonna use two cameras, I'm going to change the first camera name to something that is more descriptive for me. And in this case, what I'm going to do is, instead of just camera, I'm gonna call it camera A. So I'm gonna right click and go to rename, come here, underscore camera A, and I'm going to rename this one as well to camera A interest. Camera A interest. So when I add the second camera, I'm going to name that one as camera B. So it's going to be easier for me to follow which camera is which. So now let's go ahead and determine our initial camera location and camera angle. So to do that, let's see through our camera. How do we do that? We go to View, and I go to Perspective, and here I have camera A. Okay, so when I click on that, now I'm looking through the camera A. Another way of checking whether you're looking through the camera or not is by looking here. Okay, now here it says camera A. If I go to my producer perspective, you will see that it says producer perspective here. Okay, so whatever it says here, it means you're looking through that camera. So in this case, I want to look through the camera A. So camera A is here. So I'm gonna adjust my position. I think this is a good location for my camera. Now that I'm happy with this angle, I'm going to give it a keyframe. But first I need to make sure that I give the keyframe to the correct object, which is in this case camera A. So I want to make sure that camera A is selected, and I put a keyframe. Again, I am at the beginning of my animation. I'm going to play through, and it's, I think, somewhere around here, around 106 frame. This is when the character starts sliding to the right. At this moment in time, I'm going to push my camera back, and I'm going to come to the face, maybe get closer to the face, maybe come this way and go this way. So this is going to be the last frame of my camera animation. So now that I'm happy with this angle, I'm gonna put a keyframe as well. Let's go back to the beginning of the animation and see how our animation is looking. And for some reason my initial shot is a bit modified. I don't see the feet anymore, but no worries, I can always adjust that again. So I'm going to update my keyframe on the first frame, which is done now. So let's play and see how it looks. What happens here is that I basically intensified the scene, make it more dramatic by starting with the feet, and as he walks toward the camera, I pull my camera back, and after a while I reveal the character's face very briefly. Okay, there we go. And then I let the character pass by the camera, because after this point I'm going to cut to the second camera. Okay, so if I jump back to the producer perspective, now we can actually see my camera animation from another point of view. So let's see this real quick. Double click, so press play. There we go. Alright, so let's add our second camera. Again, the procedure is the same. I go to templates, click on elements, and here's my camera. I'm gonna drag and drop it to my scene. Again, the first thing I'm gonna do is rename my camera. So I'm gonna come here, rename. This is gonna be my camera B, and this is gonna be my camera B interest. I'm gonna adjust my camera interest for camera B here. I'm gonna take the camera and put it somewhere here, and I'm going to adjust this Let's see it one more time. So first the camera A is moving, and then second camera B is moving. So the next thing we need to do is basically edit these cameras. So as a next step, what you can do is you can render camera A and camera B separately and save them as separate video files, and then use your any nonlinear video editing software to put them together. Or you can use Motion Builder's built-in editing tools, which is quite handy. So let me show you how you can use that. To access those editing tools, you need to go to View and Camera Switcher. Once you do that, you need to come down to the Camera Switcher icon here under Cameras, Camera Switcher. So I'm going to double click on that. And then we get this little area here. We have camera A and camera B. I know that at the beginning of my animation, which is frame 0, I'm going to start with camera A. So I'm going to click on camera A and put a keyframe. And then if you remember, I want my camera change to happen at frame 106. Okay, so I'm going to come to 106 right here. At this moment in time, I'm going to click on camera B and put a keyframe. So now, let's watch this. So I am on camera A and then camera B. This is basically how you can add, animate and edit cameras. Now let me show you a different way of animating your camera. And to do that, I'm actually going to create a new project by going to File, New, don't save. And again, I'm going to use the same FBX file, which is fine. And now what I want to do is I'm going to put a camera right in the middle of this character's walk path. So I'm going to add my camera, elements, camera. I'm going to put it right there. Of course, now I am in the switcher view, so I need to change this to camera. So basically, what I need to do is I'm going to again place the camera somewhere in the middle of his walk path, and I want to automate the camera interest, where the camera looks at, okay, by using the parent-child constraint that we have learned before. So the way it works is I'm going to my constraints folder here and find that parent-child constraint and add it to my scene. And in this case, my parent object would be the head of the Aragorn character. So I'm going to select his head effector and then find it here. It should be automatically highlighted, which is this one right here. So I'm going to drag and drop this onto parent object. And for the child object, which is the constraint object, of course, is going to be the camera interest. So I'm going to take the camera interest and drag and drop it there and click on active. The moment I do that, as you see, my camera is looking at the head of Aragorn, because this is what we told Motion Builder to do. When you press play, as you see, the camera is following Aragorn's head. And I'm going to look at this scene from my producer perspective. There we go. Okay, let me come this way. As you see, the camera is rotating and following the character without any keyframes. This is the beauty of using a constraint with a camera object, which comes handy in certain situations. As the next practice, what I want to do is to show you guys how to move your camera along a motion path. So for this exercise, I'm going to go to the tutorials folder and select the Aragorn character and bring it into our scene. No animation. And I'm going to go to the previous moves folder now to select one of the motions that are built in Motion Builder. And I'm going to select the one that says fall backwards, which is this one. And I'm going to add it to my story editor here. So I'm going to drag and drop it onto my story editor panel. It's going to be right here. So this is the animation. So I'm going to go to my top view here by pressing Ctrl T, and I'm going to explain you what kind of camera angle I am thinking of. So the character is facing this way now. So I'm going to start somewhere here to the left of the character, and as he falls back, I'm going to create a semicircular motion path like this. So as he falls backwards, my camera is going to come like this and stops right here. Okay, I'm going to go back to my producer perspective. So the first thing I need to do is, of course, to add my camera. So I'm going to go to Elements, Camera. Okay, I'm going to again select my camera interest and point it to the face. Just like I did in the previous example, I'm going to create a parent-child constraint to lock our camera interest to the head of the character. So I'm going to go to Constraints and go to Parent-Child, and again take my camera interest to be the camera, the constraint object, and I'm going to select the head effector. But as you see, the head effector for the character is not here anymore, because as you noticed, we use the story editor, so all the animation right now is stored within the story editor. So what I can do is go to this blue button here and go to bake plot to control rig, and I'm gonna use FKIK. Now as you see, my animation is baked into the control rig. That means I don't need this story editor anymore, so I'm gonna disable it. So now I'm gonna select my head effector, go to my navigator tab. I have my parent-child constraint menu here. Because my head effector is selected, I'm gonna find it right here, already highlighted, which is right here, and drag and drop it on the parent object. Of course, I need to click on active to lock the camera interest to the head. Okay, so the next thing I'm gonna do is to determine my initial framing for the camera. So I'm gonna jump into the camera by pressing Ctrl E or going to view perspective camera. I'm going to adjust it now. Okay, let's say that I'm happy with this angle. Okay, so normally I would come here, making sure that the camera object is selected. Normally I would come to this button and press key, but instead of doing that, what I'm gonna do instead is go to animation and create animation path. Okay, and it's gonna warn me that it will create a path constraint and a path model for my selected object. I would say yes. Okay, let me jump out of my camera to the producer perspective. Okay, so this is my first frame, initial frame for the camera. Then as the character comes down at this moment in time, I'm gonna move my camera to the back. Okay, somewhere there. Again, I'm gonna jump into the camera, which I like here. This is, I think, a good camera angle and in the good timing. So I'm gonna press key. Okay, as you see, it creates a line, and as the character falls down, I'm gonna move the camera to the right of the character, and this time, since the character is down on the floor, I'm gonna bring my camera down as well. Let me jump into the camera and see how it looks. Maybe adjust it just a bit like that. Okay, now that I'm happy with this angle as well, I'm gonna put a keyframe here in the timeline. So I'm gonna jump out of the camera, and as you see, this is my motion path for my camera. And the good thing about this is that we can actually edit this motion path in any way we want. So let me first review the animation from my camera's view. So I press Ctrl E. Okay, let me press play. It seems like it's a very fast animation, which it is, but you can always slow this animation down, which will make it more dramatic in this case. So actually, instead of doing 1x, which is the regular speed, I'm gonna go to maybe 1/4 of the speed, okay, which is going to make it 4 times slower than the actual speed. So let's see it now. Looks much better. Okay, so let me get out of the camera one more time and see if I can animate this in any way. And to do that, what you need to do is come to this icon here, which says object mode, click and hold, and change it to vertex mode. And the moment you do that, you can actually select any point in the motion path and select any of the handles, maybe this one. And if you enlarge it, it smooths it out. I'm gonna select this one. It's like a Bezier curve now. So I'm gonna come like that. So I'm gonna have more smoother curve for the camera's motion path. So I can even maybe take this one and push it further. Okay, if you're happy with this, we can review this again. Press Ctrl E to jump into the camera. Press play. So this is how you can create some complex motion. So we used a parent-child object and we locked the camera interest to the head of the character. Then we used a motion path and we animated the camera along that motion path. Let's watch it one more time. I think working with cameras is a lot of fun, and I think it requires a lot of creative thinking on your behalf. And this is where you as an animator can shine and showcase your creativity.